Hello, everyone. Hope you're all doing very well. My name's Meg Moonbeam, and I'm here with my friend Redpill Rooster. And we're going to be talking about week 3 of the P. Diddy trial. We're here live simulcasting on both our YouTube, Rumble, and X channels. Luke, how's it going?
It's been a long week for me. We've been dealing with some back injuries over here. My wife,
Oh my
Grace,
God.
injured her back last week. So, pulling double dad duty over here and just trying to take care of my wife and hold the fort down has been a whole thing in and of itself. And keeping up with the P. Diddy trial, it's like, new information every week. And it's all, every time it's like the shock just gets a little bit more.
Yes, I love that. The shock gets more and more. And we're professional conspiracy theorists. So we're not just keeping up with the P. Diddy trial. We're keeping up with Candace Owens, Harvey Weinstein, the Epstein, everything Trump's doing, everything RFK Jr.,
Yep.
everything.
Yep.
There's a lot going on right now. I've been feeling that the past week. I'm like, wow, this has been a week of every day. It's felt like big bombshells of some sort.
Absolutely. Yeah. I actually posted a video onto my Instagram this last week that absolutely blew up. It's got like 500,000 views. And
Wow.
it's a video of the World Trade Center. So I did this little post about, World Trade Center 7. It's essentially a guy that came on from the architects and engineers of 9/11 Truth, which, if you've read my book or you've followed me at all, you know that was my very first red pill. So I was just, tickled to see that
Right.
this information was reaching a mainstream media outlet. And
Wow.
yeah, it's over on Instagram. That's my X page.
Oh, on your Instagram. Okay, sorry. I thought you said
Yeah,
X.
yeah. Um, and it's information that is not new by any stretch of the imagination, but for it to now be making its way out, what, 23, 24 years later, it's hard to even keep
Mhm.
track of anymore. But, for that information to be reaching mainstream audiences it's groundbreaking. And there's still so many people that haven't seen it that are coming into the comments that are shocked.
Right.
They still never knew about Building 7, you
It's
know?
wild.
It's wild. And I remember when I found out about Building 7, it was 2011. So 10 years after the actual event, I was like,
Right.
wait a second, there was a third building that fell? And when you see that thing fall, there's just no question. It falls like a pancake.
Yeah.
7 seconds right into its own footprint, free
Yeah.
fall for 200 feet. Um, it's incredible, and it's undoubted to be a demolition when you look at it. But you know, also the programming is still so strong that there's also people coming into the comments that are making up reasons that could have happened. And they're just
Right.
they're thinking out loud, which is great. But yeah, I mean, lots of debate going on in the comments section there. So thousands and thousands of comments. My
Oh my
Instagram
god.
tripled, quadrupled over since I last was on with you. So
Congratulations. That's amazing.
very surprising. Instagram has been a tough nut to crack, and it was one
Yeah.
that when I kind of first decided I was gonna do this and I was gonna, really go full force and come out of the closet, so to speak, as a conspiracy theorist, I was like, should I go on to Instagram? That's where the
Mhm.
normies are. And it was
Yeah.
kind of like, well, that's where the normies are. Maybe that's not where I wanna be. My family's on there, but also that's kinda where we need to reach people too. So, yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a long journey, and so, yeah, I'm happy to see that just the information is reaching people.
That is amazing, and I hope you don't mind me saying we both got Pluto in our 10th houses right now, Taurus rising, so we're meant to be out there in the public, you and I sharing this information, so I'm happy that it's getting out there, and it's funny that you're bringing up, 9/11. I think this was, like, 2 weeks ago. When I'm here in Belgium, but I'm working on Eastern time, after I do a show, it takes me a while to cool down
Mhm.
afterwards from all the energy, and there was a couple weeks ago, I spent, like, 2 or 3 hours in the middle of the night just looking at videos of, on the streets on the day of 9/11, the people on the streets. I hadn't seen those videos in a while, and man, that must have been so traumatizing. I don't know anybody
Absolutely.
personally that lived in New York at that time, but you just look at that and it's like, wow, that really happened.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And just the fact that there was people on the street down there saying, "No, there was no second plane. That was a bomb. That was
Right.
a bomb." They're it's like CNN is down there getting, commentary from people on the ground. And the guy's like, "Who said that there's a second plane?" And the reporter's like, I don't know. They're telling us it was a second plane." And he's like, "No, it was a bomb. It was a bomb."
Wow.
So just wild. I mean, when you go back and revisit this stuff and look at it through a different lens, it makes you question. And if
Mhm.
it's not making you question, I mean, you're just really, consuming whatever the mainstream media narrative has pumped out there and not looking at anything for yourself. Just look, there's
Yeah.
no harm in looking at the evidence. It doesn't make you one of a crazy conspiracy theorist like me, you know.
Mhm.
You don't have to be like me to go out there and just, say, all right, this is where actually I started. I said, you know what? 9/11 truth, our architects and engineers for 9/11 truth disturbed me so badly. I was like, I'm going to disprove this thing.
Right.
I'm going to debunk it. And that was where I started. So go out and debunk it, give it
Yeah.
a shot.
Give it a shot. Try to do it. I love how David Icke has a huge, thick book. Have you ever seen his book on 9/11?
Mm-mm.
David Icke Jens has all of David Icke's books in English and Dutch. And the one on 9/11 is literally like this,
Oh
just
my
chock
God.
full of all the proof
Yeah.
of what really went down.
Yeah.
Absolutely wild. So happy to be here with you again, Luke, and thank you all so much for joining us here. We're in week 3 of the P. Diddy trial, getting into the nitty-gritty. So please remember, you guys, to like this video, subscribe to both our channels on YouTube, Rumble, and X if you'd like to keep up to date with our content. And you can find all of Luke and I's links, tongue twister, down in the description box below. Luke, you have your new book, Confessions of a Conspiracy Theorist, available on Amazon. The link is in your link tree. And I was happy with what you shared with me before we went live about, do you want to share
Yeah.
that announcement?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm happy to announce that I've finally found a charity, a worthwhile organization, a nonprofit that is doing work that really resonates and aligns with me, with the book, with my goal for the book. I always wanted to donate the proceeds of the book to a charity or an organization that was out there, um, that wants to help the children, that wants to help people that are recovering from childhood trauma and the
Mhm.
things that happen in the world of human trafficking. So I'm happy to announce that the proceeds for the book of The Confessions of a Conspiracy Theorist will be donated to the Moving Beyond Trauma Project. It's a very worthwhile organization. I don't know if you can pull that up there,
Yeah, I'll
Meg.
try to pull it up.
What they do is they help people heal from childhood abuse using a theta healing technique. And it is a heart-centered, non-duality spiritual approach. It's founded by Judy Dragon, and that is her real name. I think
Mhm.
Dragon was actually her first name, and
Wow.
I correct me if I'm wrong, Judy, but if you're there in the comments, uh, it is so. Judy is an author, a trauma survivor. She is a healer with over 45 years of experience, and they're passionate about sharing the tools that actually work, that are rooted in unconditional love and deep-minded body awareness. They support survivors of human trafficking and want to help those that that are on their healing journey. So for me, this really resonated, and I actually had the privilege to experience one of her treatments last week. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, my wife injured her back. And so at the end of our conversation, I must have talked to Judy for 2 hours. She's got those books there that are fantastic, and I'm digging into them myself. My wife is digging into these. She's got a bunch of YouTube videos as well. But
Mm.
we sat down and she said, do you have any pain and in your body? And I was, kind of sitting there going, well, I don't know about me, but my wife is dying in the next room. Like, can you help her? She can barely walk. And she's like, bring her in. So my wife sat down with Judy and they had a session and they did a theta healing session. And what I can say is, it wasn't something that was instantaneous, but the next day, it was the first day in 3 or 4 days that I didn't actually have to help her get out of bed. I mean, it's the
Wow.
back injury is that bad to where, helping her put her clothes on, helping her actually get out of bed. It was a tough back injury. It's basically a bulging disc.
Oh my
And so that healing session the next day started to take effect. She's been seeing a lot of improvement just over the last few days. I think a lot of now Judy's worked with her a couple of times just out of the graciousness of her heart to, help her heal through that process. And by the end of that, I actually came back and I said, you know what? Yeah, I kind of have a pain in my head right here. And I've got this pain in my back, my side right here. It's kind of a sciatica type of thing.
God.
She did a little healing on me. By the end of that, the pain in my head was completely gone.
Wow.
And the next morning, the pain in my back in the side, where sciatica, if you ever had sciatica pain, it just lingers, totally gone the next day. So I highly recommend it. Check her page out, check out the Moving Beyond Trauma Project. And so what we're going to be doing with the book is I'm going to be donating all of the proceeds of the book that have already come in. Everybody that's already bought the book, you've essentially donated to this project.
That's
And then
amazing.
moving forward, we're going to do 50% of the proceeds are going to be donated to that project as well. So if you're somebody out there who is looking to further your awakening, further understand where we are in this movie that we're watching, right?
Mhm.
Wants a little bit of assistance in connecting the dots, seeing the roadmap, and actually, putting your money to a worthwhile cause towards healing people's trauma. You can do both all at the same time right there. Just hop onto Amazon. You can find the book anywhere digitally, whether it's Apple or any of the other platforms that you might actually purchase a digital version of the book. And you can also get the paperback there as well. So
Yay, awesome. I still need to order some paperback versions. I'll be doing that after today's show. And I've said last time as well, I read your book, Luke, and it's amazing. Love your way of writing and weaving the web of what's really going on through your awakening experience. And I love how you're not trying to force anybody to believe what you're spouting out. You really
Mhm.
say, do your own research yourself, which is, the way that it should be, right?
And I tell people several times throughout the book, I think about 3 different times I mention, look, if this information is already hard for you to digest, please stop here, right?
Yeah,
Because it gets deeper, right? And the further
right.
that you go, the darker it gets and the more hard it is to believe. And if you're not already, on the path of believing that some of the stuff that's mentioned early in the book is possible, then just stop. Let it digest.
Yeah.
This was something that was written, it took me 12 years to fully come to a point of where I was like, okay, I definitely 100% believe all of this stuff.
Mm,
And so I don't have the delusional expectation that anybody's just going to pick this book up, read it and go, I'm right there with Luke. I believe all of this stuff as
right.
well, right? It takes time. It's a
Yeah.
process.
Some people do. That's something kind of concerning that I do notice in our community. Not everybody does it, but some people just take right at face value things that certain people say just because they're in a very powerful position, which I think is, we need to be very discerning of everybody, no
Yes.
matter where they're at on the tier of, you know, being a successful truther or mystic or anything like that. I don't think anybody's right about everything. That's my personal opinion. So discernment is very important. And that's a very positive sign when someone like yourself, Luke, says, do your own research. Don't just believe this because I'm saying that. That shows that you're doing this from your heart
Mhm.
and you're not trying to get people like, you know, following
Absolutely.
every word you say just because you said it, right?
Absolutely. I have been in this community for a long time, and it's my opinion that at some point, at some place, everybody gets it wrong somewhere.
Right.
Even your mainstream media is it, we've seen CNN come back and say, "Oh, actually, we misreported something." So, you know, I don't even think I'm right all the time. So
Right.
I assume that some of the things that I believe are, hey, 5 years, 10 years, who knows when, at some point, I'm gonna find out, "Oh, actually, that's incorrect. Okay, good to know." And it's okay to be
Mhm.
wrong. You just gotta be open to being able to be wrong and say, "You know what? I was wrong about that," and take a
Right.
step back.
Yeah, exactly. And, speaking of going down the rabbit hole with every week of this P. Diddy trial, it just gets more and more intense and disturbing. You're speaking of, how stop right now if this is too much for you, because it
Yeah.
can get really disturbing. How are you feeling so far after we've just had week 3, week 2 of the trial actually happening with the jury and everyone taking the stand? What are your overall kind of feelings just in general about the past week?
Well, I feel like this last week they continued to set that stage, so to speak, to, lay everything out so that you can sort of get a good idea of what this guy's character is, Kid Cudi's
Right.
testimony to come on and say that
Mhm.
not only did he, light his car on fire and blow his car up basically, but he also tortured or hurt his dog to some degree to
Yeah.
the point where, Kid Cudi's came out and said, "Yeah, my dog is traumatized from this. He acts different now, and he's agitated and scared, basically." So who knows what they did to the dog, but the
Mhm.
dog was locked up in a room when they found him. So just that type of thing, when you see somebody who's willing to hurt animals, I mean, it's a telltale sign of a psychopath, right?
Yeah.
So that was one of the big things that, for me as a character representation says a lot. I mean,
Mhm.
we've already heard a lot about some of the things that he did just last week and knowing
Yeah.
what he did with Cassie, but yeah,
Mhm.
now Animal comes into the picture, and then there's other stories and rumors out there of, other, I believe, workers, bodyguards, his
Mhm.
assistants who were instructed to go and get animals for ritual ceremonies,
Right.
goats
Yeah.
goats and stuff like that. So, yeah, the rabbit hole goes deep.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. And we're going to take this day by day, you guys. And then there's some more general things we want to also go over as well. I feel like there's so much we can talk about related to this trial. So interesting that, well, the trial this week was only from Monday to Thursday. So I don't know why that was. Usually it's from Monday to Friday, but there wasn't any trial on Friday, and it'll be back in session on Tuesday, the 27th, for any of you that are wondering. So the week started off with very interesting. I'd never heard of this artist before. Dawn Richard, former member of Diddy's music group Danity Kane, she took this stand and said, Diddy said to her, if you tell what I do, people go missing. So
Mm,
he threatened her with basically death, allegedly, or going missing. Also, she said Usher witnessed Diddy punch Cassie in the stomach, and Usher did nothing about it, which is disgusting.
mhm.
Also, she saw Diddy hit Cassie with a skillet. So that was some pretty damning testimony from maybe like a C-list celebrity, D-list celebrity.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
right.
Kid Cudi is definitely like an A-list celebrity.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, we'll get to that for sure. There was also Carrie Morgan, a friend of Cassie, took the stand and alleged that Diddy hit her with a hammer on the head. And this was in the Monday day of the trial as well. Carrie Morgan, Cassie's friend, also described Cassie at one point, her and Cassie hiding in a ditch for hours and making guttural screams after being hit by Diddy. Cassie
Oh,
being hit by Diddy. That's like horror movie kind of
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely. I mean,
That's
it sounds like
absolutely
working with this guy is like living in a horror movie.
yeah. And okay, I want to bring this up with you, Luke, around okay, Kanye West is coming out. Okay, very interesting that at the moment he's defending Diddy at this moment.
Hmm.
I'm noticing Kanye West, he kind of goes very extreme. One moment he's, on this side of an aisle with an issue, the next moment he's on another side. So at this moment, even though in the past he's really talked bad about Diddy,
Hmm.
he's for Diddy and his innocence, if I'm hearing him correctly. Do you think that Diddy is an informant of some kind? Do you think at this point, and I know it's a very loaded question, but do you feel like this is him and his addiction and the Satanism just on his personal end and being a part of the cult? Or do you think there was more here that he was doing all of this intentionally for the sole purpose of getting blackmail on people?
I think it's a mix of both.
Yeah.
You know, tying in all the sexual behavior and all the deviancy to obviously the blackmail. I think that the blackmail is a huge part of it. I mean,
Right.
the guy had CCTV cameras put up all over his house. He didn't do that himself,
Hmm.
so who installed all the cameras, right? And where was that feed going to? With the amount of politicians that we know were at the parties, how far did they go to the after party? Did they go to the
Yeah.
after party? Right? Yeah, we see him here laughing it up with Barack Obama.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely think that this is into the vein of what Epstein was doing. This stuff
Hmm.
was being utilized to blackmail people in Hollywood. This is one of the things that I talk about in my book. It's, blackmail is one of the strongest ways to control somebody.
Yeah.
If you can blackmail somebody, it's quite frankly, it's better than killing them because
Hmm.
then there's nobody missing. Everything looks normal. And now you've got this person under your thumb to do whatever it is that you want or need them to do. And
Hmm.
with the way that our culture is and so many people revering celebrity, I mean, you can really influence people. And I mean, there's a reason why Kamala Harris had all of those celebs come out and endorse her for
Right.
her campaign, because people go, oh, Beyonce is endorsing Kamala.
Hmm.
That must be the way to go. She must, be the right person to vote for because, well, Beyonce is voting for her. She got Beyonce's, back.
Right.
So yeah,
Hmm.
I
And
think there's a lot of that there.
yeah, and we're now finding out, to your point, as per President Trump, saying that all these celebrities have been paid millions and millions of dollars illegally to campaign for the Democratic Party. And he said, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that he's going to expose that. Interesting that while this P. Diddy trial is going on, he's tweeting about Bruce Springsteen, he's tweeting about Taylor Swift, he's tweeting about exposing the celebrities. I feel like
Mhm.
there's no coincidence there.
No, no. And with Obama there, and you just mentioning Trump, I mean, he reposted,
Oh,
retruth
yeah.
that one tweet or truth that it was on his Truth Social page that said all roads lead to Obama.
Yep.
So, and there he is, yucking it up with Diddy, and he was
Mhm.
sweating in that interview. I really wonder what was said before the cameras were turned on, right?
I
'Cause
wanted to bring that up with you because I found this video to be, if you really pay attention to it, and we'll play it here for you guys to see, very odd, their behavior. Like,
mhm.
kinda like, are they on drugs? Or what's going on here? They're wiping their face, from that much sweat. Okay, let's take a little listen and debrief.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all. Thank you. And I just want to say how much I appreciate Puff Daddy for doing the kinds of work that he's doing, because he doesn't have to do this. But this is part of what is important about giving back.
We applaud you, and I want to apologize for not sweating, but I do this so much. I'm so cool. I just want y'all to see everybody I'm interviewing is sweating. I'm not even touching my brow. I'm so cool, and I want to apologize. I ain't trying to make you look bad or nothing like that, but I'm just so cool. We
T-shirt. I tell you, if he was wearing one of those fancy designer clothes he's designing, he'd be sweating just like me.
Okay, can I just say, what strikes me with that right away is not only do they maybe seem like they're a little bit on drugs or something like that, but also Diddy seems to be very comfortable with
Mm-hmm.
Obama.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't know about you guys, but if I met President Trump, if I met a president that I really, respected, I don't respect the Prime Minister of Canada, so I won't use that as an option. But I would be like on my best behavior. I would be maybe cracking some jokes, but not like I don't know. I just feel like there was a weird dynamic there, a comfortability there. What do you think, Luke?
Yeah, I agree. You'd approach that interview with some humility, right? You'd be
Right,
humble. You might, you know, it, lift the other person up a little bit more. And
right,
instead, he says, "I'm so cool" 3 times. And we always talk about the comms in the white hat community.
right.
White hat community.
Yeah.
Um, but I watched that again this week, and I was wondering, is "I'm so cool" some kind of calm for
Mm,
whoever his puppet masters are? Was he
right.
sending some sort of message that a message was sent and received, and now, he told Obama, or Obama was read into whatever information, whatever's going on,
Hmm.
and Obama's sweating, and he's sitting there like, "I'm so cool. I'm so
Yeah.
good," tooting his own horn.
Right.
I don't know. That was the lens that I looked at that through.
Yeah, really weird. And for those of you who don't know, this is a ex post from Lauren Conlin. She says, "We heard about the dealer One Stop yesterday. The weird part was when Diddy's former assistant, David James, said he preferred ecstasy pills with Obama's face on it or something like that. Diddy and Obama are publicly posing together in the below photo, and there are many more photos of them together." Very true. And I was even thinking in my memory, I'm like, that's so true. For some reason, I can remember through time, I've seen them together many different instances, just in random pictures or online or whatever it is. Lauren also says, "Don't celebrities meet with presidents occasionally? There were no gasps in the courtroom. I agree that there's probably a rabbit hole here. I'm not sure this is the one." So pretty fishy
Yeah,
that,
I agree.
yeah,
And to have
very,
Obama say, the type of work that he's doing, and now we know the type of work that he was doing. Very strange. I mean,
oh my.
definitely reason for pause.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely big reason for pause. So we'll move on. Day 7 of the in-person trial on Tuesday, May 20th, we had David James, Diddy's former assistant. And most of the assistants, when they take the stand, they are scared. Most of them are visibly really uncomfortable taking the stand. Some of them are crying, saying that they're fearful for their life. I mean, that would be pretty scary to have to do that for these former assistants. Continued his testimony. He said he didn't see physical violence between Diddy and Cassie, but saw them argue a lot. He said he would be asked to take care of baby oil and buy it from cash with cash from Diddy. And all of the assistants talk about the amount of baby oil they had to buy. They were basically full-time baby oil assistants,
Yeah.
having to clean up hotel rooms that were covered in baby oil from the freak-offs. I mean, disgusting. Cassie's mom, Regina Ventura, took the stand on Tuesday and talked about how Diddy extorted them for $20,000. Eventually, he gave it back. There was also on Tuesday a male stripper named The Punisher took the stand. This was the second escort to take the stand. He said he was called by Cassie to show up at the Trump Hotel. Interesting. In New York City, that was
Yeah.
one of Diddy's favorite places to go. The Trump Hotel.
Yeah.
When he showed up, Cassie asked to put baby oil all over him and then have sex with her while Diddy watches with a mask on and masturbates while giving direction. I mean, this is just like so strange.
Yeah.
Also on Tuesday, there was a Homeland Security officer. He took the stand showing pictures of Diddy's Miami house that was filled with AR-15s, magazines, 7-inch platform heels, condoms, and crates of baby oil. So this is dark, dark, dark. Then on Wednesday, we had Dr. Dawn Hughes, a clinical forensic psychologist. She talked about abusive relationships and why people stay in them. We kind of touched on that a little bit last week, Luke. And, you know, this really is, and again, some people may be listening like, Cassie's making this up. How could she do these things? And this is basically sex trafficking. I mean, he's being charged with sex trafficking. If he is threatening her, and they only started being in a relationship, if I'm remembering correctly, when she was 21 or 20 years old. And he's, I think, 18 years older than her, in charge of her career. I mean, that's sex trafficking.
There's a balance of power that is, you know, way out of whack there, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you know that this guy is a mogul in the industry,
Yeah.
and he does have your career in the palm of his hand, and
Mhm.
you know what the consequences are if you don't listen or do what he says to a T. I mean, there was
Right.
even one guy that was an assistant that testified there as well, that he was getting paid something like 125 grand a year to basically be his assistant. He was way overqualified to
Mhm.
be a personal assistant. And what he said was that, oh gosh, brain fart. It's
Mhm.
leaving my head. It had to do with the baby oil. He would clean up the rooms
Yeah.
afterwards. Oh, it'll come back to me.
It's a lot of information.
It's a lot of information. It'll
Yeah.
come back. But
Yeah.
the moral of the story is that, you know, he's basically hiring these people and then using force to get them to do
Right.
what he wanted. I remember what it was now. So what he wanted, what Diddy wanted was,
Yeah.
he told him to go to the store and get a gallon of BPA free water. The guy went to the store, and
Okay.
all the BPA water was in gallon form was sold out. So he bought 2 half gallons thinking, okay, well, this will do, you know,
Mhm.
2 half gallons equals 1 gallon. And he brought it back to Diddy, and Diddy got in his face about it, that he didn't do the job as he instructed, you know, and he thought he was going to fight him. You know, basically they were nose to nose over the fact that this
Wow.
guy brought back 2 half gallons of BPA free water rather than 1 full gallon of water, you know. So just goes to show you a little bit of how easy it is to set this guy off, you know,
Yeah.
and send him into a violent, potentially violent tirade.
Mhm. Yeah, and John in the chat says controlling. Yeah, all about control.
All about
Very,
control.
yeah, very, very freaky. I think the biggest thing that happened this week was, of course, major A-list celebrity Kid Cudi testified, took the stand. That was on Thursday, May 22nd, the last day of the trial so far. And speaking of comms, okay, he shows up looking really freaking cool.
Yeah,
Okay, he
right.
he is real. I actually like Kid Cudi. Okay, maybe he is really bad. I don't know, but I've been listening to his music ever since it came out. I hope he isn't a bad guy. Maybe he is. You know, we've all had that happen with artists that we like and stuff like that. But wow, he came in looking like James Dean. Okay,
Yeah.
as soon as I saw him, I thought, okay, what's up with this James Dean calm? Is this just how he wanted to show up? Is there
Mm.
some sort of message about James Dean? I mean, Luke, you're the actor here. I don't know that much about James Dean. Are there any conspiracies about James Dean that you know of, or do you know much about him or
Not that I
movies that
know
he was
of.
in?
Not that I know of. I love that you picked up on that, because yeah, he does have a very James Dean-esque
Well, I mean,
look.
yeah.
And I remember I looked at this photo too, and I was like, yeah, damn, he looks cool. You know, gets out of the car smoking a cigarette,
Yeah,
got the leather jacket. Going into court, I got a t-shirt and a leather jacket on and blue
right.
jeans. Like, most people don't show up to court like that.
Right. And interesting that I'll bring up Kid Cudi's chart in a few minutes, his astrology chart. He's an Aquarius, and James Dean is also an Aquarius.
Interesting.
So I was thinking, okay, is Kid Cudi maybe James Dean in a past life? What's going on with that? Can we maybe pull some cards, Luke, on is there any connection between these two, or is this just a nothing burger? I mean, I thought of that right away when I saw it, and interesting that Complex Style, this X post, said the same thing.
Absolutely.
Is there a message? Maybe we can ask more generally. is there a message behind how Kid Cudi presented himself at the trial?
Okay.
Is that significant in any way?
Yeah. Let's
Because
ask.
we do see that with Melania Trump a lot and her wardrobe. There's a lot of comms coming
Absolutely.
through with that,
Yeah.
right?
Melania definitely uses the language of semaphore, which is, the language of flags and clothing, right? Which
Mhm.
is essentially how you communicate. You're communicating messages through, is your flag upside down would insinuate there's distress, right? Or with her showing up in the baby blue, the who was it? Kennedy, Jacqueline Kennedy, baby blue
Right.
dress.
Yeah.
People made a lot about that, and yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So yeah, let's take a look.
Yeah, let's take a look. Stephanie says, "Sorry, I don't know who he is. He's a musician and a rapper and also an actor."
Yeah.
So let's see if there's any significance to how he showed up. Hmm. Wow. Do you wanna go first, Luke, or should I
Go
go
ahead.
first?
You go
Okay.
first.
This is interesting. So 5 of wands reversed right off the bat, which this
Mhm.
is very much a conflict card, but when it's reversed can be about more passive conflict.
Mhm.
Maybe this was a protection mechanism for him to go into this situation. I mean, he is an artist, he is an Aquarius, so he's a total rebel. Maybe that helped him to feel protected, like going in there like an Aquarius in a weird way. We've also got the Magician. Okay, interesting. So that makes me feel like even though this isn't necessarily a past life related card, maybe there is some sort of connection between Kid Cudi and James Dean of some sort, or he wanted to tap into James Dean's essence to
Mm.
get through the
Mhm.
day. Maybe James Dean, I mean, Kid Cudi is an actor. Maybe that's one of his favorite actors or something like that. And also the Hierophant reversed. Interesting. That so for me, the Hierophant, it's like spiritual information and teachers, but can also be like very powerful
Mhm.
people at the same time. It feels like he's trying to be the magician and switch up the energy, kind of make it weird to make it easier to get through.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting.
Well, interesting. All my cards came in reverse as well. So the
Oh,
first thing
wow.
I got was the
Ooh.
7 of Cups reversed. And so I take this as definitely a message that he was trying to do something to send some sort of a message, and lots of illusion here. Uh,
Mhm.
maybe he wanted to look very cool and was really very nervous about it. He knew that he was coming in to talk about some very dark stuff. And then the second thing that I got was also the Ace of Cups upside down. So I would say that yes, there's definitely some sort of calm, some sort of message
Mm.
going on here, but maybe there's even something going on with Kid Cudi where um, maybe he's losing things. Maybe maybe
Wow.
his wealth
One sec.
is disappearing. Maybe, you know, maybe his water is flowing the wrong way out of his cup, right? It's about to be emptied out. And the last card that I got was the 4 of Wands in reverse.
Ooh.
So going through a gateway, but kind of going back into something that he had left, that, going back into a place that he doesn't want to be in. So I think that he was definitely trying to come across a lot cooler than
Mhm.
he really felt. I think he
Mm.
probably shared the same fears. You know, getting out of the car and smoking a cigarette can be just like a sign of like, yeah, I'm just cool. But
Yeah.
also people smoke cigarettes when they're nervous,
Right.
so maybe it was just that last smoke before you go in and take a deep breath and a leap.
Right, and face the villain, as he called him, a Disney villain who traumatized his dog, set his car on fire, and broke into his house and threatened
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, he had a
So
lot. He had a lot. He might even have some more things that didn't come up or weren't mentioned there
Wow.
in the trial, but he knows a lot.
Yeah. Should we maybe pull some clarifiers on what do we need to know about Kid Cudi right now? What's the truth about Kid Cudi and his energy at the moment? Is he for the
Okay.
good? Is he not for the good?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Ha ha ha. Okay, I'm getting very interesting. Well, one upright and two reversed again. The Six of Pentacles, which is very much about giving and sharing resources. Maybe he's being really supported in doing this from
Mm-hmm.
positive forces. I was about to say maybe he's getting paid, but I could be payment, but I feel like more there's a support, there's a flow of support for
Mm-hmm.
him to do this. I do feel like he was really freaked out to do this, which is
Mm-hmm.
making me feel like, okay, maybe he's not an angel because he is like a very famous rapper and musician, but maybe not on the level of Diddy. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
didn't take part in any of these freak offs. Maybe he's not at that really like more satanic level, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
Eight of Swords reverse can be moving into a place of freedom after disempowerment. And also the Ace of Swords reversed. That's interesting. So this might be something that really messed him up, actually, that I feel like he may have been struggling with and has maybe been affecting his mental health.
Yeah, the thoughts and words
Right,
that are associated with all of this. And
right.
so I got the Three of Cups right out of the
Ooh,
gate. So I would interpret this one of two ways. The first way is, yes, he was rejoining, Cassie, and this was an element of coming together, but also
mhm,
perhaps he was one of the people taking part in the party
right.
substance. Maybe he was
Mhm,
at the parties having a good time. He was there. He saw a lot of things.
mhm.
The magician reversed,
Ooh,
indicating, yeah, that you know you can't the magician, you can't take at face value. He's always got a trick that's
right.
going on behind his back. Um, and I think that he came out to expose some of these tricks, but again, some of these things are hidden. The magician, you always have to look at the thing that they don't want you to look at.
Mhm,
They've got one hand moving, the other one's behind their back. And so a little bit of the magician there, where he is coming across in a way where he's telling part of the story, but not all of it, right? Coming
mm,
across as the good guy here, very much. But
right.
what else happened, right? How much did he partake in this?
Yeah.
And then funny, I also got the Six of Pentacles. And so I think that I get the sense that he was doing this. There's an element of generosity here.
Mm,
He was being very generous by coming out, putting himself at risk
right.
and helping Cassie. As you can see, this person is helping people that are, lower than him, on a lower
Mhm,
financial status, a lower, cultural class or economic class. He's trying to help Cassie. I think
yeah.
he loved her. I think
Mm,
that he genuinely cared about her, probably wanted to be with her more than he was able to be because of this whole situation.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I do think, there's a hidden hand here. There's
Wow.
there's a little bit of secrecy going on, and
Yeah.
some things that he didn't mention that probably wouldn't paint him in such a, good guy light, but he
Mhm.
took a risk to put himself out there, and knowing that he's gonna put himself into the spotlight and probably put himself under the lens of some scrutiny here.
Interesting. And I also pulled a bonus card and I got the Fool reversed. So there's definitely, that makes me feel like a lot not being shared and we don't have the full story about Cudi. And that resonates, Luke, that maybe he took part in a little bit more than he's letting on. Doesn't necessarily feel that dark to me. Maybe I'm
No.
biased because I've listened to his music, but it's making me feel about how when you're in the entertainment industry and you're wanting to become a musician or an artist or an actor or whatever it is, you get very excited by being in certain situations, by being around very powerful people. And sometimes you just find yourself at a party or at a situation where you don't know that there's some really messed up things going on there, but it's a way for you to network, for you to connect. It's exciting when someone offers, an invitation your way to something where there's a lot of high level people. It was probably exciting for Kid Cudi to be at some of these bigger events or bigger parties, as with many of these celebrities,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And not saying they're all angels, but not every single artist in the world is Illuminati, right?
Right. Not everybody's a demon,
Yeah.
and just because you were invited to a party doesn't mean that you necessarily took a part in all the deviancy. So
Yeah.
we have to, lay that out there. We can't paint everybody with the same brush and say, oh, well, you were there. Well, you must be guilty too. You must have done some
Yeah.
of these atrocious things as well. But yeah, I think I would say with that Fool reversed, maybe he's not such a fool,
Maybe he's not. And another reversed, the Death reversed. It feels like he's not strong mentally. I feel like Kid Cudi is not strong mentally, and maybe something similar to Kanye. He was very good friends with Kanye. Kid Cudi and Kanye made an album together. They were very good friends, and they actually fell out of being friends. We'll get to Kanye West in a little bit. Want to play this clip for you guys of Lauren Conlin, who has been going every day into the trial and reporting on it, talking about the specifics of Kid Cudi on the stand.
Time update. It's basically winter. We are Diddy day 9, and I'm going to skip through George Kaplan, Diddy's former assistant's testimony right now just to get through Kid Cudi. I'm going to give you all those details during my later recap at the end of the day. But let's start with Kid Cudi, aka Scott Mescudi. So he walked into the courtroom, seemed very relaxed, wearing a leather jacket, had an earring on, and I thought maybe Diddy was going to kind of like look at him all the way as he got up to the witness stand. He didn't. He kind of just sat back in his chair. So Kid Cudi testified that he met Cassie, they dated, they worked on music together, and he said that he thought that Cassie and Diddy were on again, off again, but at the time that he was seeing Cassie, which we found out was pretty much about a year. Oh, and also he got up there and said that he loved her. He was in love with her. Sweet. But he said that he was under the impression that she was totally off again with Combs for that entire year. So, and we all know that Diddy found out about Cassie and Kid Cudi from her testimony when Diddy found an email on her phone to Capricorn Clark or one of Kid Cudi's assistants, something about her toiletry bag at his house. So we hear about this. We hear about this night. And oh, by the way, not to jump around again, but when the prosecution had their opening statements, they mentioned a break-in involving Diddy's assistant that was kidnapped out of her bed at night and was forced to go break into someone's home to look for Cassie. And it turns out it was Kid Cudi's home, but we'll get there. So he goes back to that evening, December 2011. He says that, hopefully you guys can hear me, it's so windy. He says Cassie calls him very upset and stressed, saying, Sean Combs found out, and she's panicking, and she says, come and get me. So he goes to get her, and he takes her to a hotel. He takes her to the Sunset Marquee. He thought that would be better. She'd be off the radar. But then he later says that for whatever reason, Cassie gave Diddy his home address, Kid Cudi's home address. And maybe she felt like she was forced to. Maybe he was threatening her. That's just a guess. I don't have proof of that. I'm just wondering why she would do that. So they're at the hotel, and then they get a call from Capricorn Clark. And Capricorn, although she works for Diddy, she's good friends with Cassie. So Kid Cudi describes that Capricorn is on speakerphone, and she's calling them from the car in the driveway of Kid Cudi's house. And she says, yeah, like Diddy's in there with an associate. They woke me up out of bed. They forced me here. They're in your house. So Kid Cudi is pretty mad, and he's like, what the hell? So he gets in his car, he drives over to his house, and he said he calls Diddy. And he goes, motherfucker, why are you in my house? And he just said, I just want to talk to you. That's what Diddy said. And then Kid Cudi says, I'm on my way over. I wrote all this down. And then Sean Combs says, I'm over here waiting for you. So he arrives at the house. He also says that his security cameras, they normally point a certain way. They were pointing down for whatever reason. And but he goes inside. He said nobody was there. All that he noticed was that there were Christmas presents for his family on the kitchen table. They were Chanel. That's all he remembers. And they were opened. And that his dog was locked in the bathroom or like behind the bathroom door. So he also said that his dog kind of had PTSD from that incident. Sorry, of being locked in there. Okay, so sorry. Next page. It's so cold. All right, so okay, so he calls Diddy after that, and he says, you know, where are you? And then I guess Sean Combs says, yeah, I'm on my way. And I don't know. He said that things went through his mind, like, you know, should I stay here? Should I do something? You know, whatever. Or should I meet him? And he said after going through all of this, he's like, no, I'm not going to do this myself. I don't know if he has weapons. I don't know anything. So he said that he called the police. And the police went to his home and they made a report about the break-in. And that was that for now. So he went back to Cassie. She was stressed. That was her demeanor. But he went to Connecticut for the holidays. And when he was in Connecticut, Kid Cudi describes that. I'm like, am I snotting? Sorry. I feel like, oh my gosh, I've probably been snotting this whole time. Really sorry. It's really cold. So Kid Cudi describes that Combs is texting him while he's in Connecticut. Like, you know, what did he say? I just want to get to the bottom of it. You know, I was in the dark about all this stuff. This is what he's texting Kid Cudi. And he's just like, I want nothing to do with this. So he doesn't respond to him. And then Cassie ends up breaking up with him before New Year's. And, you know, he goes back to LA. And then we found out that Cassie goes to Arizona to visit Diddy. And so now we're January of 2012. And he said he's 45 minutes away from his house. This is Kid Cudi. He said he's at his ex-girlfriend's sister's house, and his dog sitter calls him and says that his car is on fire. And it's about 6:30 a.m. And she takes pictures of the car, and he has a Porsche. And it turns out that a Molotov cocktail was thrown through the top of the car. So he drives over there. I mean, we see pictures. The whole roof is destroyed. They open the door up. It's all charred on the inside. And he explains what a Molotov cocktail is. You know, it's an explosive, a bottle with an inflammatory liquid. It's lit on fire. And yeah, and then I wrote down that he yawned on the stand. Let me see. Oh yeah, and then his friend Chip sent photos of the car. I guess his friend Chip was nearby. And so yeah, he calls the cops, and he makes a report. Oh, okay. So then, the prosecutor says, what was your reaction to your car being set on fire? And he goes, what the fuck? It was actually kind of funny. Okay, so he says a few days later, that's that. He reaches out to Diddy and he says, let's meet, we need to talk. So he says that D-Rock and, which is, you know, one of his bodyguards, D-Rock brings him to a floor, maybe the 7th floor at the LA Soho house. Cassie is not there yet. He said that he walked in, and this is actually a really funny moment in the courtroom. He said that Diddy was facing these like windows, these glass windows, and he was turned around with his hands like behind his back, and he goes, he looks like a Marvel supervillain. Everybody's like, what? And then he said that Diddy's demeanor was so calm, it was almost bizarre. He said that he was offering him water twice. He made sure to say that, and he just said it was really weird that he was so calm and bizarre. And basically, you know, they said they worked it out where, you know, Kid Cudi said, I didn't know you guys were still dating. I'm sorry. It's over, blah, blah, blah. Worked it out. They shake hands. And Kid Cudi says, wow, you know, their hands were still clasped. He said, well, what about my car? And Diddy just said, let me see what he said exactly. Sorry. Diddy said, I don't know what you're talking about. And this is per Kid Cudi. And Kid Cudi said that he kind of let his hand go and just walked away. And Diddy's like, wait, I thought you said we were cool. And he said, yeah, you don't know anything about my car. Okay. And that was that. He said he didn't see him like pretty much ever until a few years later at Soho House again in LA when Diddy was with his daughters and Kid Cudi was there for something. He just went up to him and he apologized for everything. So I thought that was interesting. And I'm really sorry if I'm like snotting. Gosh. Okay. So really quick, a minute left. So Brian Steele did the cross of Kid Cudi, and it was actually funny. At one point, they had a sidebar. I don't remember what it was exactly, but Kid Cudi goes, Mr. Steele, I want to say something, and the judge was like, nope, you can't. It was kind of a funny moment. And Brian Steele, he kind of got Kid Cudi to smile a little bit. He complimented him, said, you know, how talented he was, and then the things that he pointed out, the important things the defense pointed out here. The fact is, he asked him about the police report with the car. And he said, well, did they ever follow up with you, the LAPD or whichever agency it was, about the car? Because, you know, they got fingerprints, they got DNA. And he said, he basically was like, I don't know what you're talking about. And Steele said, yeah. So the DNA was from a woman that they found. And Kid Cudi said he didn't know that. And I'm not adding in any commentary here. So just, make your own conclusions in your mind, if whatever you think is going on. Then he also added that during the break-in, he said his door was wide open, and there was no forced entry. He also got Kid Cudi to admit on the stand that he felt like Cassie, quote, played him. He said that twice that I wrote down. Let me see. He also, he testified that Cassie told him about the physical violence, but he didn't see it himself, but Cassie just told him. He didn't know anything about sexual violence. I'll have more later.
So there's a lot there. So Kid Cudi took the stand and is saying that after Diddy found out that Cudi and Cassie were seeing each other, he went over to his house. Diddy broke into his house, moved some things around, locked the dog in a bathroom, traumatized the dog, was threatening Cudi, wanted Cudi to come over to his place. Cudi didn't want to go because that's sketchy. Does he have guns? Diddy's very powerful. What's going to go on with that? And he filed a police report. This is very serious claims from an A-lister.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a little bit wishy-washy, honestly, because he came and said at the same time, yeah, I think that it's possible that she played us both.
Right.
And for that to come out, it throws a little bit of doubt out there in terms of Cassie's motives. I'm still not sold that the prosecution has this as an airtight slam dunk win by any means. At the end of the day, the prosecution has to find him guilty, or has to compel the jury to believe that he's guilty of racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, or transportation to engage in prostitution. I think they'll get him on the last one, which I think is the least of all the charges. But sex trafficking by force and fraud or coercion, yes, they've laid the case out there and made it clear that he definitely forced her into doing some of these sexual things, or at least, intimidated her, scared her enough. But if the defense is able to sow any doubt into the mind of the jury, and it only takes one juror to hang this whole thing up, for one person to have enough doubt to go, I'm not convinced that, she was sex trafficked.
Yeah.
And so I'm hoping that the prosecution is still just laying the groundwork here, and that things are going to get a lot more stiff and a lot stronger and more compelling as things go on. And I hope that there's some more heavy hitting evidence out there than, this testimony from Kid Cudi was good. It really corroborated some of the other things that have already been said so far during the trial, but it wasn't a smoking gun. And it wasn't like, oh yeah, Diddy got nailed for blowing up his car. He wasn't found guilty of doing that, or, charged with anything from it. So kind of a nothing burger, all roads point in the same direction, right? We can kind of speculate there, but it's not concrete, right? It's still kind of hearsay, if you ask me.
Yeah. They seem to be either really not good at what they're doing, or the prosecution, or they're leading us up to something. And very, very interesting that as we go into week 4, we've now got Saturn fully in the sign of Aries. So Saturn entered Aries yesterday from when we're filming this video, Saturday, May 24th. And it was a Saturn in Pisces the whole time so far in this trial, right? Saturn rules law and order and government and the feds in Pisces, which is confusion, illusion. Saturn doesn't like to be in Pisces. It's very sensitive. It's victimhood. Now with Saturn in Aries, I'm thinking astrologically, there's going to be it's going to get pretty nitty gritty from here on out.
Yeah, I hope they light the fire.
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
hope we see them light the fire. We come out of this murkiness and confusion, which is often associated with Pisces, and get into more of that fire energy where the prosecution really brings it and has the smoking gun.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's interesting that we both got was it the Six of Pentacles? Yeah,
Yeah.
the Six of Pentacles, right? I do think Kid Cudi really put himself on the line. And I do think that some of the people taking the stand are really putting themselves on the line big time. He
Mhm.
is an Aquarius, Kid Cudi, 9 degrees. This isn't his exact chart because we don't know what time he was born. But Pluto being an Aquarius, he's now got Pluto on his sun for the next 19 years. So that's very intense situations. And he's a moon in Capricorn, like me, 14 degrees. So that's interesting. When this happened in 2012, 2013, if I'm remembering the years correctly, Pluto was right on Diddy's moon. So Pluto, to have a break-in, to have Diddy, who's a Scorpio ruled by Pluto, come into his home, break into his home. That's the moon. The moon
Mhm.
is home.
Okay.
Right? So that's crazy. When Pluto was on his moon in 2012, 2013, he had that break-in. He had that criminality happen. Now with Pluto on his sun, he's very much in the public, in the spotlight. Pluto is powerful people, can be being in the spotlight, but also you're putting yourself at risk. And that Pluto, currently at 3 degrees of Aquarius, is in a direct square to his natal Pluto, 2 degrees Scorpio. So I think he's putting himself on the line by doing this.
Yeah, and I think, maybe shining a light on a lot of darkness, and some of
Yeah.
that might have to do with him.
Right.
We may see other things come out over what did you say, 19 years it was?
19 years. Yeah.
That's a long time.
That
That's a
is
long time to have Pluto right there, with your sun just shining a light on all the darkness. And a lot of
Mhm.
good can come out of that, but also, I mean, if you are one of the people that's been partaking in some of those dark activities, you might be shining a light on some of the wrongdoings you've done as well.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. Denise here says they're never going to talk about the young children. Well, we kind of talked about that last week, Luke, and we were getting that in the cards too. They may be leading up to getting to that piece. And that's been a whole theme I've been feeling this past week. I actually did a little bit of a rampage on my Instagram stories yesterday, and a bunch of people unfollowed me because I was explaining, things have to be done in phases. Not everything can be like exposed at the exact same time.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Especially for people that are not like us in the conspiracy or the alternative or the woo-woo freedom community, whatever you want to call yourself. This has to be put out step by step by step by step. Going to the children right away is going to blow everybody's heads off, and everybody
Mhm.
have a freaking psychosis.
Yeah,
Right.
right, and I mean, catastrophic disclosure, right? Where you've just told somebody something that they're not ready to handle. They haven't gotten even close to getting to a point where, you could even believe a 9/11 type of thing, right?
Right.
Um, if somebody's not ready to hear that, one, they're not gonna believe it anyway, and
Mhm.
and and two, if they do, what does that do to people psychologically?
Yeah.
So I completely agree with you. You've got to take things step by step. You got to
Right.
walk it out there. You got to slow roll things. And if you
Mhm.
started talking about the children right away, where does this case have to go? I mean, you don't start
Exactly.
bringing on Kid Cudi later on,
Right.
or who was that other lady? We
Don
mentioned,
Richard.
yeah, the D-list
Yeah.
Hollywood
Yeah.
star or whatever.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
gonna it pales in comparison, so
Right.
you've gotta set this whole thing up if they're gonna go down that road.
Yeah.
And somebody who popped into my head it popped into my head earlier, and I couldn't remember the name, and I just did, but, Ally Carter is somebody
Mm.
who mentioned
Yeah.
Obama, mentioned Diddy, said
Yeah.
that she was at the parties.
Mhm.
And if you don't know who Ally Carter is, go and find her, look her up. I mean, she gets a lot of flack for people out there saying, "Oh, she's making it up. She's trying to get money out of people and this and that." but a lot of the things that she said have been corroborated. I mean, she's walking around in the background at
Mhm.
some red carpet event where I think Will Smith is being interviewed, and Allie Carter,
Really?
Allie Carter is walking around in the background, and I'm pretty sure she's mentioned his name. She has mentioned a lot of big names, and
Right.
she doesn't gloss over anything. She's not pulling any punches. She is laying
Right.
it all out there, and she's telling people what they actually have done, what they're doing to kids, to, teenagers, 12 and
Mhm.
unders, all of that stuff. So if you ask me, her life is in danger. And
Yeah.
every time I've looked her up, I mean, she's on the run. She's basically
Right.
posting from in her car and, you know, going from place to place and hiding. And so what a terrible way to live. And I
Oh
I, I
my
do
god.
believe she comes across totally genuine to me.
Mhm.
I just don't know why somebody would throw their life away and, to just come out and say all this stuff with no real way to you're not going to make money off of coming out and
Right.
saying that all of these, A-listers hurt you and did terrible things. And
Mhm.
so, yeah,
Is she missing, Luke? Because there's some videos here saying she's missing. Is that just clickbait or
I don't know. I haven't seen her in a long time, and you know, the thing with Allie Carter is I don't know which accounts are legit and which accounts are just like knockoff accounts because she's come on
Mhm.
several times that saying, there's people that are essentially making money off of her videos on TikTok
Wow.
by saying, "Oh, this is Allie Carter's account. Send me money." And
Mm.
she's out there telling people, "I'll never ask you for money." She's gone on to lives where people can, send you the diamond
Yeah.
emojis or whatever that you can convert into dollars.
Yeah.
I've seen her go in during a live, turn all that shit off so that people can't
Mhm.
send her anything, because
Right.
I think she really wants people to come away with like, "Look, I'm not doing this for money." So,
Mhm. Yeah, it's, I can't imagine living a life like that. That's, she's so strong. Everyone who's been through this, SRA, are absolute warriors for
yeah,
sure. And you
absolutely.
shared this clip with me, Luke, before we went live. Let me bring this up here. This is from the SCIF on X. And this Liz
Mm.
Crocken, I was watching this with Jens and he recognized her. I've never seen her before. Is she well known in the community or what? Who is she?
Yeah, she's one of the OGs of, talking about Pizzagate,
Got it.
and so she's been talking about this stuff for years.
Right.
There's definitely some rumor and skepticism even about her role in, the whole conspiracy community. Uh,
Right.
you know, there's always question of who's controlled opposition and that sort of thing out there. But I mean, she's been, what is it? She has a Substack or something like that where she writes her blogs, and she comes with the facts, evidence, and receipts. I mean,
Mhm.
she really does her homework. When she writes her articles, she's not just writing this stuff out of her opinion. She's coming with, evidence of here's what, is in the FBI files, and here's what all of these symbols mean. Look at what the FBI says that these symbols mean. So,
Mhm.
yeah, she's on here with Benny.
Interesting. Let's listen to a little bit of it.
Is to blackmail people. How do you control people? How do you control a powerful individual who has a ton of influence, whether that is an elected official or, a pop singer or whoever? Well, you blackmail them. So when you look at Diddy and Epstein, they both were videotaping everything that happened in their homes at these parties where crimes were committed. So the incentive would be to have blackmail footage on other celebrities and politicians. So then the powers that be, the deep state, the CIA, the intel agencies, the feds, whoever, then they can control those people. You don't vote this way, then we're going to release the video of you, you know, at a freak off party, or we're going to release a video of you with a child, you know,
Mm.
or, you know, to some of these celebrities in Hollywood, if you don't do a video telling all your followers that you must take the vaccine, well, then we're going to release, you know, your video from Jeffrey Epstein's island.
Hmm.
Blackmail is what rules the world. And unfortunately, there's so many people in Hollywood and many people in government, many members of Congress who are blackmailed. And that's what Diddy's operation really was about. And that's what Jeffrey Epstein's operation was really about.
Yeah. It's, you know, and that just makes me think about going back to the COVID times. And when we went through that phase of all these artists and well-known people, many of them that some of us admire, whether it's a musician or an actor or an artist or whoever it is in all kinds of different fields. And so many of them publicly, as you guys know, were telling all of us, telling your following, go get the, you know what, it's safe
Yeah.
and effective. I need to be careful here we're on
Yeah.
YouTube, not just, there needs to be consequences for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. You're manipulating your followers into believing something is okay because people inherently trust you. You've already earned their trust because they love your music or they love your
Right.
movies, or you know, they're fans of yours for all of these reasons that are really the wrong reasons to be listening to anybody when it comes to, you know, who you should vote for or what you should do with your body, just because, you know, man, I loved Forrest Gump.
Right. Oh my-
You know,
Yeah.
we got to start to think for ourselves here. So yeah, that's exactly right. That
Yeah.
all of this stuff was done for the purpose of blackmail. And
Mhm.
I wouldn't be surprised if Diddy was involved in some sort of intelligence community, and maybe we'll find this out later on. I don't know
Mhm.
that anything like that'll come up in this trial by any means,
Right.
but it sort of reminds me of when I remember watching the video of Epstein sitting down with FBI interrogators, and the dude's like this, like, you know,
Diddy?
his body, no, Epstein,
Oh,
you know,
Epstein. Yeah.
his body language was just so like, you know, oh, let me put my glasses on to look at this. Okay. You know,
Right.
put my little eyeglasses in my mouth, like so chill. I'm sitting there and he's sitting there telling these people, like, look, this is above your pay grade. Like,
Mm.
you know, the balls that you've got to have, or the information that you already know that you have, to be able to say something like that when you're
Right.
being interrogated by the FBI for pedophilia and trafficking children and
Mhm.
human trafficking. I mean, massive, massive charges, almost as big as they can possibly get.
Yeah.
And to be cool as a cucumber, you know, this guy knew he had so many people wrapped around his finger that he
Yeah.
was going to have somebody get him out. You know, he was going to be able to, he knew that he would be able to get off in one way or another.
Yeah. For sure. It's absolutely wild. And maybe Epstein is alive somewhere right
I
now.
am, I am of the belief that at least the photo that was released wasn't the same guy,
Mhm.
right? Your nose doesn't go like this to like this
Right.
after you die. It just doesn't,
Yeah.
you
That
know? So
doesn't happen.
yeah, I am definitely in that camp.
Yeah, for sure. And this is another clip that you wanted to share, Luke. The rapper Freddie P, former member of Diddy's group Da Band, I never heard about this one before, opens up about Justin Bieber and Pizzagate. I love when these rappers and these
Yeah.
guys they come across and they just let it all loose here.
Yeah.
Like Wendy Williams. I say this because I say
Also, Wendy Williams. Okay, what the heck is going on with that? Do you know Wendy
I don't even
Williams?
know who Wendy Williams is.
Okay. You don't know Wendy Williams? Oh my
I
God.
don't.
She's a talk show host. She's the biggest drama queen ever. We
Okay.
should do a whole separate show on what the F has happened with Wendy Williams because she's locked up somewhere. She started to speak out. She said, don't get the you know what. And then they've like put her in a facility. Anyways, that's a whole other.
Okay.
It's a repetitive cycle of mysterious like mysterious things that happen to people that know about this situation before we did. When you look at Wendy Williams, it's like they wiped her whole memory. Justin Bieber, half of his face was gone. Everybody who look, if you look right now, Justin Bieber eating pizza, he's sending messages. Everybody know about Pizzagate. When you go through Instagram, once you get knowledge of what's going on in Pizzagate, then you go back and do your history of how long they've been doing it right in front of our face. It's not only Puffy, it's a culture. It's the people that's around them. It's Hollywood. It's Hollyweird. It's who they are.
Yeah.
They belong to that. I don't know why people be seeming so amazed with what's going on right now. They belong to Satan.
Mm.
You get what I'm saying? That's the agendas they push is in your face. So some people just have to understand that when you're dealing with a person like that, you tend to do anything for them because if you don't, you go back to nothing.
Mm.
And the longer you're around a person, the further you come from, you remove yourself from nothing.
Wow. Very well said by, what's his name? Freddie P. Laying it all out there.
Yeah.
Right. And interesting with, I think I have this clip of Justin Bieber. Did you see this, Luke, the other day?
Which one?
Or not the other day. This was like last week. Justin Bieber posted on his Instagram. Oh, sorry. I thought you guys could see this on my screen. Let me bring it up here. As the trial started, I don't think we shared this yet. Justin posted him eating pizza.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I look at some of this stuff, like Justin posting pizza, also like Lady Gaga hosting SNL like a month ago, and they did a satanic ritual as one of the skits. They know what we think.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So why would they put this stuff out there?
Right.
It's not a coincidence.
Right.
This is not a coincidence. Right. So interesting. Is Kid Cudi maybe a part of setting the stage for someone like Justin Bieber to come forward?
Yeah, I really wonder. I'm hesitant to think that Bieber is going to take a stand.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually don't know really what to make of this. Is he taunting, Diddy or the people that are there? Like, hey,
Right.
I know the secrets and I can talk, or is this him? Is this him saying, hey, I'm in the club,
Mm.
but why do it in such a strange way? I didn't know what to make of this, honestly.
Yeah, that's
He's eating it weird, like he's dancing while he's eating the pizza. It's clearly like he's putting on a show,
right.
the way that he's doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But what that guy said was these people belong to Satan. When people use that term, they sold their soul to Satan.
Mm.
That I used to think that was like a figurative term, like, just something that people say, it's metaphorical.
Right.
No, like when you understand that these people are involved in black magic rituals, they are literally using black magic.
Yes.
Every time you see the pentagram upside down and you see, people like Beyonce in the middle of a pentagram, they are taking part in a satanic ritual. And I think this is the thing that's really hard for people to wrap their head around. If you're a good person, and maybe you're a Christian or something like that out there, and you tend to think, everybody else is as good as you are, or, you think better of people.
Right.
It's really hard for people to comprehend. You sold your soul to Satan. What does that mean? You signed something in blood, that people sign contracts in blood. And when you're doing this, you are taking part in whether or not you believe in Satan, they are absolutely conducting a black magic
Yeah.
ritual. So
Mhm.
just ask yourself if they believe in black magic, why? Is
Right.
there something to it? You know,
Mhm.
is our world much more magical than we are led on to believe? And obviously there's an opposite of that. There's white magic there,
Yeah.
and I truly believe that the reason that they want to suppress humanity is because the whoever the puppet masters are that are controlling this entire planet know that people are magic. We have so
Mhm.
much power, and they've
Mhm.
dumbed us down to believe that we are just these box people that live box lives and sit in front of a TV and just eat what we're fed. Eat
Mhm.
the content and the information that we're fed. And meanwhile, they're out there practicing black magic, satanic rituals
Yeah.
because they know that there is power behind it.
Yeah. It's wild. It's crazy to wrap our minds around, but that is what's really going on. I agree with you, Luke. I think that that's what's really going on. And for me personally, I felt my whole life like something was off, even before I went down the rabbit holes and started listening to Alex Jones and David Icke. And when Pluto was on my moon, having that huge activation in 2012, realizing the whole time, this is not right. There's something parasitic going on here. There's something really dark going on here. Why doesn't any of this make sense? I could just see it everywhere I looked as a
Yeah.
Scorpio growing up. And now learning all this information, of course, it makes sense. And
Mhm.
interesting, Jens was interviewing an SRA survivor yesterday, which the interview is going to come out publicly soon. And she was talking about how all of this dark arts practices and rituals and poisons coming at us from every direction, from the health industry, our food, education, the skies, everything. It's done because exactly what you just said, Luke. We actually are really freaking powerful.
Yes.
We actually are so much more powerful than the dark.
Mhm.
We're coming out of that little old age of Pisces. We're coming out of the fall of Atlantis times, and we're coming back into age of Aquarius, an age of light where our gifts, our consciousness, our being is getting fully activated. That
Yeah.
to me is what the ascension is. I could be wrong about that. To me, the ascension is not there's going to be this huge cataclysm and we're all going to die and we're going to ascend to 5D. The ascension is we're raising our consciousness and we're learning about how limitless and powerful we actually are.
Yes, I completely agree.
And by cutting off from listening to certain artists that are dark arts, watching movies that may be dark arts, doing things a part of the dark arts agenda, certain things, all
Mhm.
kinds of things, right? We are starving those beings and they cannot have power.
Mhm. And you have to ask yourself, why is there such a big trend in the music industry? I'm just going to pick
Right.
on that one in particular
Yeah.
of, Satanism, of worshiping the devil in all these music videos, of
Mhm.
having this motif of red. And, I'm Sam Smith and I'm going to wear devil horns and I'm going to have
Yeah.
women in cages at the Grammys, right? Why is that? They are paying homage. They are telling you what they're doing while they're doing it, before they do it. And by you sitting there watching it and going, yeah, Sam Smith, wow, what an incredible artist. He's
Yeah.
got such a great voice. To them, you are consenting to all of that ritualistic behavior. And,
Mhm.
and yeah, right there. I mean, this is just the tip of the iceberg. You can Neo, yep,
Mhm.
or was that or Little Nas,
What's
whatever his
Yeah,
name is.
Lil whatever. There's actual blood. Sorry to interrupt you,
Actual
but
blood.
actual blood in those shoes, actual human blood.
Yes, yes. And so there's a lot more to this. It's not just for fun. It's not just to make money. If you
Right.
look at the top money-making movies in Hollywood, can
Mhm.
you guess what rating they are?
Really
What
bad.
what's
Oh,
the top?
rating. Oh,
Yeah,
the
what's
rating.
yeah, like G to rated R.
Would it be R?
It's G.
G.
G-rated movies make the most money in Hollywood. And because they're all associated with children, you know, and goodness, and
Right.
you know, they're wholesome. So,
Yeah.
you know, if it was really just about money, then hey, you'd be making G-rated movies all day long, every day. I mean, that's what
Right.
they would be focused on. But all the other stuff is focused on getting you to come into this culture, to programming you to accept these things, and then, you know, sort of stupefying you into believing, oh, well, you know, that's just art, you know, that's just
Mhm.
for entertainment purposes, right?
Mhm.
But really, I mean, I don't know. I personally don't get a kick or, you know, entertainment out of watching Sam Smith or anybody really run around with a devil horn on and,
Yeah.
you know, parade themselves as a Satanist. To me, I'm just like, what are you doing? Why are you
Right.
doing that?
Yeah.
You
And
know?
the Super Bowls too, you know, it's like it makes me think about, let me bring this clip up. Did you ever see the Weeknd's Super Bowl performance?
Yeah.
So, okay, let me bring this up. Like, out of anything that this dude could have done for a Super Bowl performance, it was very, very dark and satanic looking. And a lot of the Super Bowls in particular are like that. There's just an ad playing. Sorry, you guys, we'll
Mhm.
let it run through there. But so freaking weird. Let me just play a little like visual of this for you guys to see. Out of anything these guys could be doing, they're doing dark satanic rituals
Right.
being controlled like under a puppet master.
Hmm.
And it's just, we won't play the whole thing, but very, oh, look at this.
Her friend, I try not to even remember who these people are. I
Yeah.
give them like no attention, but Lil Ice or whatever, they always have some dumb name.
Lil Ice.
I
Let
don't
me
know.
see.
Some chick, you know, she's there, she's doing her little
Oh,
devil
Ice
horns.
Spice. Oh,
Ice Spice. Yeah, we're right. Like, let me come up with two random words that rhyme, and that'll be my rapper name. Like, so I feel
Ice Spice worships Satan at the Super Bowl?
right.
Are
Yeah,
you
look at her.
freaking
She's
kidding
got an
me?
upside down cross, and look, devil horns, signs and symbols. This is all,
Upside down cross?
and she's going like this. Look at my cross. Look,
Oh my
I
god.
worship the devil.
Wow.
These people are
That's
psycho.
wild.
And
Yeah,
they'll do anything to be famous, to be rich, you know. So why would it stop at just throwing up some signs and symbols? I mean, they've sold
right.
their soul.
Yeah. Oh my god, I never saw that. I don't know how I missed that. I think Taylor Swift to me, I've really off-putting to me energetically. I've always been like,
Yeah.
"Get that chick away from me."
She's like the female version of Napoleon Dynamite. Have you ever seen those
I
comparisons, like the way that they're
Yeah, I have
modeled?
seen those comparisons. So funny. So, Luke, I want to be respectful of your time. Is there anything you want to bring up before we finish up here in this week for the Diddy trial, or anything you're feeling like sharing at the moment?
You know, the only thing that I'm still wondering about is how Maureen Comey, the lead prosecutor, is really
Mm,
going to fare during this. I think she's gonna face a lot of scrutiny regardless of whether they win or they lose. But, you know, you've got people out there basically saying like, "Oh, she's sandbagging the trial." You know, again, it's my opinion that so far the information that they've put out there, yes, we see that Diddy's a monster. Yes, he's abusive. Yes,
mhm,
he beat her undoubtedly.
mhm.
But is he being brought up on abuse charges? Is this a domestic abuse trial? No. So
Right,
none of that matters, right? So
right.
he's not going to jail because he hit her over the head with a skillet. So,
Mhm.
you know, we can have this character assassination all day long, is, you know, for weeks on end. And if
Yeah,
that's all that they bring to the game here, they're going to lose. I,
yeah,
I don't think that they will win, or they definitely won't get him on human trafficking charges if that's all that it is,
yeah.
because there's just enough doubt there for us to go,
Mhm.
well, you know, maybe she was just in a relationship with him, and, you know, it was driven by jealousy, and maybe she just wants to get some money out of him. And, I'm not sold, right? We need a smoking gun. We saw O.J. Simpson get out of a trial for killing his wife after putting a glove on top of another glove.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
the wackiest stuff could happen during a trial. And, freaking Johnny Cochran, if the glove don't fit, you must quit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, what a great slogan. Like,
Yes.
if you're convicted of murder, if you're charged with murder, that's the guy who you want on your side. Like, he's going to come up with some Pepsi brand slogan that, gets you out and tells you, hey, they're going to have you put a glove on. Make sure you're wearing gloves that day. Like, to have that inside track information. So to me, I think we need to see a lot more. We need to see this ramp up hard over the next few weeks. Otherwise, I don't think they're going to get him for human trafficking.
Yeah, it's going to have to, for sure, like you're saying, ramp up and get real. And I think we might start seeing that this next week, starting on Tuesday.
Let's go, Aries. Bring that fire.
Let's go, Saturn and Aries.
Yeah. Go.
Awesome. Should we maybe, before we finish up, pull some cards on just where we're at? Like, what do we need to know about this trial at the moment, where we're at? Thank God we're out of Saturn and Neptune and Pisces together. We're going to start seeing things a lot more clearly, you guys, in the collective and our personal lives.
And Aries is very decisive too.
Right.
They're not wishy-washy people.
No.
They make a decision. It's like shoot, aim, fire. Or however that slogan goes when you mix it all up, right?
Yeah. For sure. Do you want to share first or should I?
Go ahead. I'm still pulling.
We've got this 2 sixes, the 6 of Wands and the 6 of Swords. Victory. This is the victory card. So our community of freedom and truth is in a victorious position. This guy's been coming up a lot lately. So I'm hearing universe say, no matter what happens to this trial, with this trial, it's all a part of it. It's all a part of like I keep hearing spirit say, the phases the past few days. It's all part of the phases being laid out. And the 6 of Swords, moving out of troubled waters. So the energy getting lighter. I feel like that's us getting out of confusion. Ozark Refugee. I love your username. Feel a whole new energy now. Interesting. Do you feel that, Luke? I don't feel that today with Saturn and Aries. I think maybe it needs to set in. Saturn is slow. If you feel that, that's cool. I don't feel it yet.
Not yet. I'm still waiting to feel that fire. Yeah. Right under my own ass, Yeah. I mean, at least I want to see it under Diddy's ass is really where I want to see that fire.
Exactly. Yeah.
Did you pull your third one? Did you?
Oh no, I got the 3 of Pentacles. So that's interesting because that's like teamwork.
Yeah.
Doing things with other people together. And I felt that with Cudi. It feels like there's a team behind the background helping with the situation that we're not seeing in the forefront. Helping it to positively move along.
Okay. I got the 7 of Cups in reverse. Ooh. So we're going to see somebody walk away from this. In fact, there was a rumor that the prosecution lost a witness. That there was a key witness. It is just a rumor at this point. It hasn't been, validated by any sort of mainstream outlet. We haven't officially heard that, but this is somebody walking away. But I could also feel this as being something where people are going to walk away from this, like regardless of how this turns out for Diddy, people are going to be like, I am just done with these people.
Right.
I don't care, how good or how often their music is played at the club. Like, I'm over it. I'm not going to give these people any more of my energy. So I think that there's going to be a big walking away from here for the public. And then I got the Ace of Swords. So
Wow.
this is thoughts and words. So I do think that we are going to have a big revelation in terms of something verbally being said that comes out on the stand. I think we will see something that feels like a smoking gun.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna get the thing that really puts the sword through the heart of the defense.
Yeah.
And then I got the
Ooh.
9 of Swords. So
Wow.
this can be unnecessary worry. So I think that you know, like I'm sitting here with a bit of skepticism that, you know, maybe the prosecution isn't going to, you know, do the job that we're all hoping that they're going to do.
Yeah.
Maybe that's just a bit of unnecessary worry. So this guy is waking up in the middle of the night, scared about whatever it was that he just dreamed. He can't sleep. He's worried about stuff. Uh, I think that we can say, okay, we don't need to worry. They've got this. The information is going to come out, and something big
Yeah.
is going to happen. We still have a lot of time left. We're only a quarter of the way through the game here.
Yeah. Exactly. I love that. Yay. I love when the Ace of Swords comes
Yeah.
through.
Yeah, me
That
too.
is amazing. So yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us for another P. Diddy trial recap with Redpill, Rooster, and myself. And you can check out Luke's links at the description box below, Luke's socials, and book Confessions of a Conspiracy Theorist. Don't forget your red pills, available over on Amazon. And also my links are below in the description box as well. And coming up in a month exact, Jens and I are hosting this Soulful Summer Solstice Retreat Weekend. We're so excited in Algonquin Provincial Park to celebrate the summer solstice. We're going to do lots of magical activities together in the Canadian crazy wilderness, stargazing. It's going to be new moon in Cancer. There's a few spots left, so if you'd like to join us, you can go to megmoonbeam.com, see the full details, sign up. And yes, Stephanie, thank you. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe to our channels, and share this video if you feel like sharing it with somebody that might get a kick out of whatever we shared. Amanda says, what's the name of the Theta healing site, please?
It's called Moving Beyond Trauma Project. So
Amazing.
just go ahead, type that into Google. I think we dropped the link here somewhere in the chat, but just go ahead and type in the Moving Beyond Trauma Project. Type in Judy Dragon. You're going to see a bunch of information come up. Go ahead, check it out. It is amazing work. I personally experienced it. So yeah, I wouldn't be you know, doing this donation if I didn't truly believe and feel like they were doing something that was going to move the needle for us as humanity.
Awesome. Amazing. Thank you so much, Luke. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We're sending lots of love your way, and we'll see you next week. Bye.